Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our This or That series, a subset of our regular Backpack to Briefcase episode. This presentation is for students who are curious about career options that are available for someone majoring in accounting. Our presenter today will also discuss the similarities and differences between public accounting and industry or managerial accounting. Today, we are pleased to welcome USU alum Braeden Loveless. But before I introduce Braeden, a quick introduction. My name is Nate Jensen. I am a career specialist here in the Huntsman School of Business. Braeden graduated from Utah State in 2018 after completing majors in accounting, economics, and finance, as well as finishing our Master's of Accounting program. While at USU, he was actively involved in the School of Accountancy, serving as a VP for Beta Alpha Psi and as a member of our Quigley Ambassadors. After graduation, Braeden started as an audit associate at Deloitte in the Salt Lake office and working up to senior audit associate during the 4 years that he was there, primarily serving clients in the real estate investment, retail, and manufacturing industries. Braeden left public accounting and joined Connor Group, a supervising senior where he began consulting for Whatnot, eventually joining Whatnot full-time shortly after. While at Whatnot, he was promoted to accounting manager and has managed multiple areas within the accounting team, including financial statement preparation and reporting, month-end close, procure to pay, and treasury, just to name a few. He enjoys solving problems, collaborating cross-functionally across the business, and helping build and implement an internal process and improvement. So welcome, Braeden. We are excited to have you, and I'll let you just take it away.
All right. Thank you, Nate. It's exciting to be here and happy to share a little bit about my experience. As Nate shared, I started out in public accounting, did that for a few years, and then now I'm more in an industry role. So I thought I would just kind of walk through a little bit my career path, the things that I've been able to navigate during those different phases, and then at the end, kind of side by side compare just my experience from public accounting versus being on the industry side. I think, but to kind of caveat, I think something to keep in mind is that everyone's career path is different. There's no right way to navigate your career. So I think I would definitely, do your research, try things out, hear from other people's experiences, and kind of see what resonates with you, see what feels right, and just kind of take your career one step at a time. So I started out at Deloitte, was in the Salt Lake office. And I think one of the things that, as I think about my time there, that I really enjoyed is I got to experience a variety of different clients, different industries. I was able to build a strong accounting kind of base. I mean, I had it from school and from all of the classes, and through getting a CPA and everything like that. But you get more of that applied knowledge and experience as you really kind of start working and start figuring out what the experience is going to be like. So I started at Deloitte. First thing that I got into was part of a real estate investment fund, kind of one of the biggest jobs in the office at the time. And with that, I got to navigate a lot of different areas. With public accounting, if we just kind of take a step back into what that is and what you're doing is you're helping companies as they report on their financials and as they operate their companies, that they're doing it in a way that is complete, accurate, and that they're what they're presenting externally to investors, to banks, to whoever their lenders are, that information is right, or as close to right as it's going to be. There's a lot of work around controls that are in place, that companies put into place to make sure that they mitigate their risk and mitigate chances for errors or fraud from happening. So the audit side of that is we go into companies and we look at their operations. We assess, what is it that this company is doing? Where do they have risk? And we build procedures around those areas to try to basically provide a little bit of assurance that what they're doing and what they're going to present at the end of the year is accurate. And I think one of the benefits of that is that you get to think a little bit beyond just the detail level work that happens, and you look a little bit more high level and say, okay, if I was someone from outside of this company, what would I be concerned about? What would I have questions on if I saw something? And you really get to help be kind of that watchdog for them in testing all of these areas. Another nice thing with public accounting that you get quite a bit of training. You are kind of the front line with all of their clients, and so they invest a lot in you. They invest a lot in making sure that you are capable and able to perform these procedures, have these conversations with your clients, and so with that, you get just a very defined training path. If you're looking for a CPA, they basically guide you through getting all of your hours and all of your credits that you need from that standpoint. And you just get rid of that broad business understanding. You get to understand if you're concerned with public companies, how are they structured? What considerations are they thinking about from a control standpoint? And then you also get, with public accounting, you get to rub shoulders with really smart people. Especially as professionals move up in their career in the professional accounting, in the public accounting space, they get to be really specialized and really kind of subject matter experts in their areas. And so you get those opportunities on a basically daily basis to interact with them. So that's always that was one of the things that I really enjoyed, was having that level of mentorship, the level of training, and just the varied experience that I had. Something you also get with public accounting is you have times of the year that are busier than others. Most will have their busy season, what they call it. And you'll, from January to March or April, depending on the office, depending on the job, you'll have, your 50 to 70 plus hour weeks. And you learn to navigate that, and then they find ways to offset that throughout the rest of the year with time off and things like that. So, but I think you get a really strong network from that, because of both the clients that you're serving, and who you get to rub shoulders with there, and then also just internally with Deloitte. You get this network of people that you work with, and your years down the road, you can meet at alumni events and say, hey, remember when we worked on this client? And you really just build these strong friendships, relationships. And I think just being a part of a large corporate company is just a really interesting experience to have. Between the training that they've developed, the clients that they're serving, and the issues that they're facing every day, you get a really just broad and unique experience. So I enjoyed my time until it was a point that I was ready to move to a different phase. So like Nate was saying, I moved to Connor Group. Connor Group's a consulting firm. They help with a variety of services, whether it's kind of in-house accounting. They'll send their people to go fill a seat at a company, or they're navigating technical accounting issues, or they're helping companies go through IPO. They're getting them ready, building their control framework, helping them make sure that all of their processes are kind of buttoned up before going through that process. So, I moved there to get into kind of a little more steady work-life balance, and was fortunate enough at that point to kind of have my first client there be Whatnot. I did some other work as well for Maloof that you see there. And I think the thing that I found working with Connor Group that I really enjoyed, kind of differentiating a little bit from the public accounting, is, while in public accounting, I felt like I was providing value in the sense of I was helping be that watchdog, helping test and kind of provide feedback to the company. At Connor Group, I was seen as more of I'm going to this company to help them solve a problem that they have or fill a need that they had. And so I liked that. It in a way, even when I was just working, part-time in essence with Whatnot and Maloof, I felt like I was part of their company, was able to interact internally as if I were an employee for them. And they still had a strong training program, mentorship. A lot of former public accounting professionals worked there, and so you got a really good balance of that public accounting experience, but also a little different work-life balance experience as well. And the other thing that was nice is in a way, being able to work with Whatnot. It was kind of like a test drive. I got to see what Whatnot was like. Got to work with them on their side. They got to see me. So it made the kind of transition process pretty smooth at that point. So, so after about 6 months there, I joined Whatnot full time. Whatnot's it's been around for about 4 years now, and has seen significant growth. It's a live stream shopping platform, and over the 2.5 years now, if I include the Connor Group time that I've been with Whatnot, I've seen a lot of change. I've seen a lot of growth in the company. I think when I started, there were about 300 people, and we're just over 600 now. So, the company's grown. The size of all of our balances have grown as well. The volume of sales that we're processing on a monthly basis, and we're basically doing now more in a month than we did for the entire year, the year that I first was there. And so with that, I think what I've been able to experience is every day is a new day. We have, our team is set up to handle a lot of the operational side. So if we think about approving bills and, making sure that all the transactions that come in are coded to the right place. As we think about managing our leases, all of our fixed assets, managing all the depreciation from that, all of our intercompany transactions, just working through what that should look like and how we handle those transactions. So we all kind of have that level of operational work that we deal with on a daily basis, but then we also, because we are growing and we're tackling new things, whether it's new sources of revenue or the company wants to report on numbers in a different way. There's all these projects that we're always working on, which then we get to cross paths with people in other parts of the company. So we're working with our marketing folks, we're working with our engineers, we're working with our people team to try and improve all of our internal processes. And that's really exciting. It's something that I've really enjoyed, is learning something new, seeing a problem, seeing something that someone says, "Hey, we need to figure this out," and basically saying, "Okay, Braeden, go figure it out." I've really enjoyed that, and I think as I've moved through and been able to basically build out a process, build out whatever our procedure is going to be, then be able to hand that off and train someone else to do it, and then move on to the next thing. It's kind of been what my experience has been so far at the company. I've worked a lot, as it says there, with our financial statements, the process at the end of the month to close down the books and to get the financials in a place and the financial data in a place that decision makers in the company can access it, understand it, right, digest it, and then be able to act from there. It has been a fun process, and to basically provide through that improvements to the process, to where what used to take a whole day to work through and build out all of our financial statements, being able to try and work to automate that to now it takes 15 minutes, maybe 30 on a day if there's some bigger changes that happened compared to the previous month. So I think that's one thing with that I've experienced on the industry side is you're kind of leading the way. You're doing a little bit more of the proactive accounting versus seeing what's already happened and trying to decide did we do it right or not do it right, and navigating that spectrum. But it's provided an opportunity for me to kind of really be creative, which is something that I've enjoyed as well. Like and you hear creative accounting and not really something that you want to hear, but it's more of there's a problem, we don't know how to deal with it, let's go figure it out, and manage it. So I've really enjoyed that as I've worked with Whatnot, and as I've taken on different areas and different asks from the company. I work a lot with managing our contract process, just because we do a lot of deals, whether it's software or we have sellers and influencers on our platform. And so there's a whole process to manage those relationships, and how does finance and accounting fit into that process, and how do we best enable the company to understand what they've entered into, like what does that mean on a this month, next 6 months, next year basis. It's just every day is different, and I like that. So now, kind of having talked a little bit about each experience kind of by themselves, I thought we'd just walk through a couple of areas and just kind of look side by side what that looks like from a public accounting versus an industry, and kind of back to the beginning of everyone's experience is a little bit different. So this is a little bit kind of how my experience has been, but I tried to be as general with what that experience could look like between public accounting and industry. So On the public accounting side, lots of times when you start out, you're coming in to a job that an audit that's already been done at one point, whether it was last year, the last few years, whatever the case is. And so you have these, they call them work papers, but they're basically just Excel files or Word docs or, whatever they are, that walk you through a set of procedures, tell you, hey, we need to go look at this, whether it's cash. We need to look at all the cash accounts and understand what changed, what happened over this last year or period that we're trying to test. And you're making selections, and you're going and asking the company, what is that? What happened here? Help me understand. So you have a lot of conversations with the client. You're really working to understand how the company operates, so that you can be aware as you see things of things that just don't look right, or things that or if things are working well, like you great, we feel good about this. So you're constantly assessing the risk. You're assessing, is what being done, if it's not being done right, is it big enough that it's going to cause some trouble for people that are relying on the financial information. In public accounting, you're also tracking hours. You've when, like Deloitte, for example, when they go and negotiate a deal with a client and say, we're going to do your audit, they agree on a fee, and then from that fee we build out a budget and say, okay, we're going to spend X amount of hours on each of these areas, putting more hours into the riskier places. And so you're every day tracking those, where you're spending your time, so that at the end of the day, and as you get towards the end of the audit, you've been able to allocate appropriate time to the appropriate areas. And as you work through and you get into more kind of senior roles there, you're a little bit more involved in helping manage, are we on time? Are we going to meet all of these reporting deadlines that are coming up? If not, how do we shift? How do we adapt our approach so that we can still have our level of assurance that we're giving, but we're able to communicate with the client and kind of meet those deadlines. So, and then there's a lot of training that you're doing as you move up. Lots of times what you do is you've been working on an area for a year. The next year someone else is doing it. You're kind of training them through it, helping them learn what you've been able to figure out. So that's kind of a general day-to-day of what you're seeing on the public accounting side. On the industry side, like I said, you got all your operational tasks. You're making sure that we have a phrase of like, we keep the lights on. Make sure bills get paid. Make sure that our cash is where it needs to be. That we're moving things around as needed. We're communicating with all of our cross-functional partners and helping them if they've got questions or they're trying to track down, have we paid so-and-so? What does that look like? So there's a lot of back and forth partnering there across the business. We have our month-end process to just basically reconcile all of our accounts, make sure that we're buttoned up, and then with that information report to the business leaders at various times, report that externally to investors or banks. And then, like I said, we're building new processes. We're saying, okay, we've been doing this, or this is a whole new thing that we're entering into. What do we do? What does that look like? How do we navigate? And so then with that comes just various ad hoc projects that come up. So from a kind of skills standpoint, fairly similar. I think the thing that I would differentiate, I think, is on public accounting side. You look to understand, and you should have a strong accounting acumen. You should understand how the balances work, how journal entries work. But you need to have that audit mindset. Basically, be thinking about what could go wrong. Basically, asking the questions just to kind of poke the bear, if you will, and make sure that things are good. But you need to have that mindset. Lots of times CPA is preferred, and as you move up, at a certain point, you can't keep moving up unless you have your CPA, and they have a lot of incentive to help you, and they a lot of resources. So that's nice. You're doing a lot with Excel, manipulating data. I think that's one thing as new like AI tools and new tools that have been developed by accounting firms have come out. The ability to understand and analyze data, really think about what is it that you're seeing, what does that mean, what are the trends showing, what really just kind of taking a step back from just the data itself, but kind of seeing what's the data saying is really important. And you've got to be able to be ready to talk to management. I mean, within the first month that I was working, I'm fresh out of college, and you're trying to just learn the ropes, and you'll get asked, "Oh, can you go talk to the controller and ask some questions about this area that you're working on?" And so you've got to have those skills, be able to walk up and build some rapport, talk to them, hopefully help them understand what you're looking for, and then understand the answer that they give you, and be able to kind of navigate from there. And then a lot of communication with your team. I think that communication, the prioritization, kind of goes hand in hand, because you're going to have a list of areas and kind of deadlines that you have that all fit into the big picture. And so that's, you're trying to communicate and make sure that the team's aware, and basically focusing on the areas that matter. And that takes some time to kind of understand, what does that mean? On the industry side, you still need that strong accounting acumen. You have a little bit less resource. So on the public accounting side, they've got a bunch of how-tos and a bunch of guides, and they've got a whole kind of internal process documentation. When you get into industry, depending on where you are and the size of the company and how kind of developed their processes are, you could have very defined, structured process, or you could have, hey, you need to kind of figure that out. You need to do a little bit of research. You need to kind of work to understand what needs to happen. You're still working a lot with Excel, still working a lot with data, and thinking through that. And you've got to be very detail oriented. With public accounting, lots of times they have this concept of materiality, which is basically that there's a certain point where they say, okay, all of this amount could be wrong and we're still fine. In industry, you don't have that anymore. You're every transaction should be accounted for correctly. You're really working to get every part of the process done correctly, so that when auditors come in or when people ask questions, you have evidence of your process and what you've done. And so with that, you're not so much counting hours at that point. At least not we're not really counting hours. We're managing what we have on our plate, what our operational tasks are, what our projects are, what those deadlines are, for the next few months, and just trying to make sure that every day we're providing value and trying to provide impact for the company. So think about kind of what roles are within the company. When you start out in public accounting, you're generally starting out as a little bit more of a generalist. You're working on some less complex areas, a little bit more of like, hey, will you go do that? And you're a little bit more kind of guided by whatever the team has assigned for you. Over time, you take on more complex areas. You start training new staff, take on a little bit more kind of ownership of the audit itself. And then as you get up into the partner level, you're really managing those relationships with the clients. You're going out and trying to get new business. And at the end of the day, it's kind of your final word to on the reports that they're accurate, and you're kind of held, liable for those. So that's kind of generally how you'll see your role within the company. On the industry side, so much depends on the company that you work with, and their size, how long they've been around, what part of the team that you join. So you can be very specific and very niche in your approach, or you can also be very broad and just kind of handling a bunch of different areas. So you kind of get a little bit of variety there. On our team, we currently have this approach of, we have a revenue accounting team, we have a GL accounting team that's making sure that the books are all wrapped up at the end of the month and end of the year. And then we have our operational accounting team that's just making sure that the company's running, and everything's taken care of from that standpoint. And as you think about then career progression, I think this is where there's maybe probably a pretty definitive difference. And I'll say a lot depends on what company you work with on the industry side, but public accounting is very structured. You're going to start out as an associate, be there for a year or two, depending on the company, get promoted to a senior, be there for 2 or 3 years in that role, and then hopefully get promoted to a manager. That's usually where that CPA requirement comes into play. You'll be a manager for 3 to 5 years, and then get promoted to senior manager, and then you're there for a few more years until an opportunity for a partner or director role presents itself, and then you're there until you're done. That's kind of how the general structure is on the public accounting side. Nice thing with that is you kind of know what to expect. You kind of know when your promotion timelines are, and depending on the firm, there's fluctuation between when those happen. But that's just kind of your general view there. On the industry side, again, so much depends on the role, depends on the company, but you're generally going to have some subset of titles that are associate to senior to manager, senior manager, then that director, controller, kind of VP level, and then potentially at some point, a C-suite, CFO, CEO, or if you've kind of gone into some other paths, any of the other kind of C-suite side of things. So I think the thing with the industry side is that the promotion timelines are not so structured. So you may stay in certain roles or titles for a little bit longer, just depending on the company and depending on kind of what's going on. So hard to really nail that down, but that's just kind of the general thing that you'll see. And I thought I would just kind of end with a little bit of parting advice. Just some things that as I thought back on my career, just things that have either stood out to me or that I've kind of taken in over time. First and foremost, relationships matter, whether it's your personal life, within school, professional life. Take care of those relationships, manage it, and do what you can to keep those relationships strong. Within school and professional life, you never know who you're going to run into that at some point is your coworker or hires you, or you hire them. There's this network that you can build as you just kind of maintain those relationships. Like I said at the beginning, there's no right way to navigate your career. There's no one size fits all approach. So really just be open to what opportunities you have. Think about, what is it that you want? What is it that you're looking for? See what others are doing, ask questions. And I think take that mindset that you can own your own career. Something that Jim Quigley, who's a USU alum, former global CEO of Deloitte, he said once in a meeting that I was in, he said, look for, when you think about your role and think about where you want to go where you feel like you're going to grow the most, whether that's professionally or where it is that you're going to learn the most, and seek after that. All the other things will kind of fall into place as they will, but that will give you significant fulfillment and job satisfaction. And then the last thing that I'll say, something from my high school soccer coach that I've kept with me is never settle. To me, that just means don't sell yourself short. Push yourself and expect yourself to do good things. And I think that the education that you're getting with Utah State is phenomenal. And you're going to do great. That's all I have.
Thank you so much, Braeden. This was a fantastic overview of these industries, and it's hard to summarize that in such a short amount of time, but you did wonderful. Thank you for sharing your experiences with me, with the students, and hopefully this will serve a lot of students to come. I think it's hard for an accounting major to hear there's no right way to do a career. We want to know our right way to do it, and so that's good advice, to be open to those opportunities that come, and to just work hard and to look for those areas of growth. So fantastic advice. Thank you for joining us, and for everyone watching, please get involved as Braeden did. You can look at his experiences, do those things, but come see your career coach, go to the events here at the business school, and you'll be successful. Thanks, Braeden.
Yeah, thank you.